You want to tell us who you are and how and what you do?
My name's Charlene Cronstead. I'm the director of production at Business Expert Press. I also handle the marketing department, hope on a temporary basis. We'll see. But production is my jam, and I work with the authors from start to finish and everything in between to make sure that we're putting out their best face and ours as well. And I'm here because I'm so proud of Alan's book, and we're going to talk more about that. But I'm very excited to be part of this.
Charlene, my comment about Charlene is a person that puts her clients in the middle of her universe. I mean, I keep thinking and say to Jenny, well, Charlene's gone out of her way for us, but I have a feeling that this is just who you are and how you do it. So we're very grateful for your help. Thanks. Corey Joe, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Corey Joe Biddle. I'm the Vice President of Community Affairs for the Metro Milwaukee Association of Commerce. And I'm also the Executive Director of a young professional group that's within the Chamber, which is called Fuel Milwaukee.
7,000 members plus?
7,000 plus, probably more now since we've been virtual.
Gosh, unbelievable. Thank you, Corey. Let's go to Killy.
Thanks, Alan. So my name is Kalan Alwyn. I actually wear two hats, and I love to get involved in a lot of things, but I am the Director of Business and Organizational Development for a small process engineering consultancy and business in the Northeast. And I also have my own consultancy myself, focused on talent development, professional development, and really appreciative and thank you to the group and Alan for including me in this discussion and the launch of the book. So can't wait to get into it.
Great. Listen, I want people to know that I was with Killy when he burned his first letter. I actually witnessed it, and thank God we went outside to do it, because most of the stuff in good place inside. John Poirier. It's great to see you, John.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Poirier. Currently, I work primarily as an executive coach and a consultant in human resources management. I'm kind of in semi-retirement now. I taught for about 30 years in the HR leadership development space. And before that, I was in the corporate world as a VP of HR. And I'm still only 29 years old. It's amazing I got all that in that amount of time. So.
Unbelievable. He just had his bar mitzvah. So.
Right. Just on my way home from it. Yeah.
We are so lucky to have you do that. That's such a big moment. Kim, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Kim Hiddle. I am a program manager at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee School of Continuing Education, where I had the great honor and pleasure of working with Alan. So I am responsible for the management and leadership classes at UWM School of Continuing Education. I also work with the labor relation classes and the train the trainer area. But I've had a career in higher education helping students of all ages access the university experience. And I was very excited to get to read an early copy of Alan's new book and make some comments about it. So I'm very pleased to be with you all this afternoon and see what this rascally panel has to say to, with, and about Alan. So this ought to be a good time.
Yeah, well, this is not going to be all about me. I just want to make some opening comments. First and foremost, I want to thank Jenny for all the help that she's given. And I'll just launch into it. And Kelly was part of this too. This started about 3 years ago when I was thinking about, okay, part of it was pandemic related. It's like, okay, what am I going to do being home so much? But the other part of it was it started to hit me about the work that I've had with clients, and if I were to write about something that I've thought about, it really had to do with people's career and the paths that they've gone. And Kelly and I talked, as a client, Kelly and I talked about this a lot, also, about him personally, but also about the folks that were there in the organization. And so the idea of burning ladders and building bridges really started, and I think it's because it's snarky, with burning ladders. And I can remember when we sent when Jenny sent what we're thinking about for the cover to Charlene, and Charlene, your comment was, "Oh my gosh, this is great." It's like, okay, well, maybe we've got something here. Wasn't quite sure. Both Kim and John, and Kelly too, had got an early rough edition of the book to comment on. So just as way of background, and then I'd like to have you join in on some both general questions and specific questions. When I think about how people proceed in their career, it seems to be so much permission asking that goes on. And it's like, why does that happen? How is it that people think they have to ask permission for everything they do? And along those same lines has to do with who's responsible for a particular person's career development. And I know, John, doing the executive coaching that you've done throughout the years, and Kelly too, as you're getting into it, it amazes me that trained professionals, when you ask them about how they work with their bosses, for example, to find out more about their careers, it's like, well, that's not my responsibility, that's my boss's responsibility. So that struck me as something that is totally bizarre, especially when you see people like Corey Joe and the Corey Joes of the world. It's just like, okay, if it's not open, I think I could just open and walk in and say, "Oh, excuse me, I didn't know you were in here." But while I'm here, not that you've ever done that. She never told me that. I can just imagine that's what that's like. So it's like, okay. What is it? How is it that people measure? What role does success at work play in people's lives? And then how do they measure it? So let me stop right there and get your thoughts. How do you measure, you personally or in general, measure success in your work life? That's open to anyone.
Okay.
Is that you, Corey Joe?
I'm going to start. Yeah, I'll start. I think when I'm thinking about everything that you just said in the context that you said, I'm going all the way back to, I graduated from college in 2004 and had an internship that turned into my first job. And I was in this really cool corporate environment and very proud of everything that I was, doing, putting on my little suits and stuff and going to work. But I was really first generation to go to college and have the kind of job that I had, to have salary. I probably at that time, right out of college, was making more than anybody in my family. It was just such an alien experience for me. And there wasn't a lot of transparency for me into what a path could look like or what the next step could look like. And I think early on that did foster some feeling of needing permission or needing a playbook or needing, more guidance. I mean, at this point in my career, I have been blessed to be in an environment at the MMAC where they kind of let me do what I want to do a lot of times when it comes to programming. And I've just tried some things and it worked. And when it doesn't work, the sky doesn't fall. And I've just become more and more confident. But there is still some level of feeling like, well, this is what I know how to do. And this is what I've done this far. And I will find myself boxing myself out of other opportunities because I think, well, this is my little expertise. But that's why I'm in your class right now at UWM and really fighting against that, because I know it's not true. And I know that I can't be defined and I don't have to be defined by what I've already done, and I'm constantly pushing myself. And who's going to stop me? You know, like that's what I'm realizing. Like nobody's going to stop it. So why not?
Yeah. Who's going to stand in front of you and say, no, you can't do this? It's like, okay, where's that written? Well, it's not. Other thoughts, Kelly, John?
Well, you know, Corey, that story really resonated with me. I think when you start out in your career, you do feel like you're in a space and you have to conform to maybe what's around you. But once you get that little bit of taste of success, and maybe it's just a few small wins, and certainly the support of others, hey, great job, good job. You start building confidence, and as you become more confident in your own abilities and in whatever area you might be working in, you start to really, I myself too never had much of a structure and an idea starting out in my career, but as far as what a career path might look like, I just naturally, tested those boundaries of the space in which I was in, and created some doorways and pathways to venture out and explore maybe projects over here or there, getting involved in things. And so I really took an orientation towards learning and just really discovering, and that's really helped me in my career. So I think success, is, at least in my own mind, I measure it from the impact in which I have around, for myself, but also those around me, and what sort of impact I might have to a team or an organization or even an individual. So just to build on your story, I think that's a great one.
So I'm going to jump on from there and say, so Alan, you asked, what is the definition of success
Look like for you?
Yeah, for us. So Corey Joe, I was waving because I'm a first generation college student too, just a couple years ago. Yeah, like our bar mitzvah boy here.
Yeah.
And I've had a career in higher education. So not only am I the first on both sides of my family to go to college, I have a graduate degree as well. And there was a point in my life where I was an interim associate academic dean, and my late father said, "Woo, I'm finally on the dean's list." And I said to him, "Yeah, Dad, I didn't say which list you were on, did I?" So, but this is going to sound very, I don't know, Pollyanna or ooey gooey, but to me, I measure the success of a day in knowing I've made a difference in someone's life. I made a choice to work in education. So it's a good thing I don't measure success by my paycheck. Hello. But it's definitely, I know the days when I've made a difference. I was working with a customized client group the other day. Alan, it was our DHS group from the Department of Human Services. And one of the students asked to meet me before class. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to complain about Alan's class and how much he swears, but I'm braced for this. And no, it was that the classes she had been in had made such a difference in her life that she wanted to talk to me about different choices she could make. And she said, the minute I met you, you had a different energy. I knew that my life was going to change. I want you to take a look at my resume. And I said, I'm going to introduce you to my friend Corey Joe, because she does great things too. I did, Corey Joe. I want her to be in Fuel Milwaukee. That's my day's never going to get better than days like that. That's why I do my job. That is a successful day to me, when I walk away knowing the work that I did made a difference in someone's life. So whether it was working in special admit programs at Alverno or Mount Mary College, where both of those institutions said, yeah, we're willing to make a difference in somebody's life. Or it was working in the School of Continuing Education, where we're helping people like their jobs again, or realize, you know what, this isn't the right fit for me, and I'm going to take the chance to do something different. That's a successful day for me, when I can see the work that I've done is making a difference in somebody else's life. That's a successful day to me.
That's great. How about you, Charlene? How do you see it?
Well, I wanted to say a few things about, Corey Joe, both, being first time generation in college, and the tone of this book, and what she said was, who's going to stop me? When she realized who's going to stop me, you can go anywhere. And I think for a lot of us, we let the left logical, which I also say loser side of our brain, kind of control us. and talk us out of situations that and paths and opportunities that we could really shine in, but we can't see past a certain point, and so we don't go, and we let that logical loser side of us just kind of dictate. And once you break that, and your book shows people how to break that, then success is redefined and happiness is redefined, and everything just looks and feels differently.
Yeah, well put. I'll remember that, the loser side, the logical side. John will too. He's still got clients.
That's right.
How about you, Dr. Poirier?
Yeah, so I think I'd like to build on something that Kim said a few seconds ago about making a difference. And I've always kind of thought about my success as, am I adding value to either individuals or organizations? Am I having fun? And can I possibly start burning the ladder while one of those incompetent higher-ups is still up there on about rung 15, you know? And who's going to stop me, right? So one of the things that occurred to me is when I started teaching, and I started teaching traditional aged undergraduate students, you don't get much feedback, and sometimes, more oftentimes than not, you're driving home wondering whether you've actually helped someone or helped them think something through. But every once in a while, now that all of that's behind me and the threat of the grade is gone, I'll get a message saying, so Professor, I remember one time you said, and they'll quote me, and I vaguely do remember saying that, but part of me wants to say, and you listened to that? I mean, why did you pick up on that? It's like I was kind of joking, right? So, but it's also validation that somebody did hear and acted on it, or at least remembered it. And I had the benefit of having a mentor over the course of about 35 years. So you talk about a longitudinal learning experience. His name was Charlie Clayman, and for some reason, way back early in my career, he took an interest in me, and we had a quarterly lunch, literally every 3 months for about 30 years.
Wow.
And it was the greatest gift. In addition to Charlie, I had several kind of shorter term mentors who would kind of, because I had a particular issue that I wanted to explore with them. But overall, Charlie was so helpful because he would say, so let's just take a look back. Let's do a video rewind to 5 years ago. And here's how you would have framed that then. And now I'm listening to frame it now. So I think to the degree that we can think about success in our work is, can we help people take stock in their own growth?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Right.
kind of what's always kept me going.
Yeah, well put. I mean, that's part of what has been part of my motivation is that at some point, I realize you have to get grounded in your career. People have said to me, well, who do I think will read this book? And I've already gotten a couple of responses from folks that said, oh, I just bought this for my nephew. He's not happy with what he's doing. He's just starting out in the workforce. So I think the young, what I call young and restless, I think there's an appeal, and it looks like it's a leg up. Here's somebody's going to tell me how I'm going to make more money. Well, actually, I'm probably not the person to do that, because you may be upsetting a lot more people to get to that point. Point being is that you got to start somewhere. You got to build a base. But at some point, this starts to change where people are thinking about, what is really important to me. And, whether that's at mid-career, I know, Kim, you had said to me a while ago that, this could be potentially at any stage.
Absolutely.
In a person's career. This is a legitimate question. I've had people that have said, okay, I did everything I said I wanted to do after working for 15, 20 years. It's like, so now what do do I need new goals? Well, hell, you've only finished half your career. I hope there's something that's going to be out there that motivates you. And then it's, well, where's the magic bullet? And that's the fallacy. First of all, I feel the ladder's not going to get you there. I don't think it can get you there. It's not equipped. It's also rigged. And so
only so many people can fit.
Exactly. Ooh. And therein lies the issue. So why is that an aspiration? This is funny. It's funny for me. It's like I felt like the first 2 chapters of the book, I had to tell the story of the American dream and manifest destiny and why this is true and how this is embedded in our culture. Oh, well, maybe it depends on what ship you came to this country on. And maybe it makes a difference whether you were steerage or fly or riding on top of the boat. Well, yeah, it is. So we understand that there are differences, even though we have not lived those differences. But when it comes to what really matters, at some point, I think that has to be the central question. And that's the bridge building part. I mean, that's what I'm calling it. It's that this all emanates out of your ability to build relationships. So it's heresy. I mean, Charlene, like you said, it's like, well, who's and Corey Joe, it's like, who is going to stop you? And the reality is no one. And if they did, what would they be doing? It does happen with the ladder because of these innate barriers, which are complete bullshit, but it's there. And the question is, I think, what is it you're willing to take on? Is this something that you're saying, I'm going to break that barrier for a particular group or interest? Or am I saying, how am I going to move forward in your career? And I'm saying, where does it say you have to go up in order to find real meaning in your job? That's not really a question. No, there's no question there, but feel free to comment on that.
Well, Alan, I think you hit it right. There comes a point when inside your own mind, you're like, I need to make a shift. I want to have a greater impact. I want to be able to, at the end of the day, know and get the feedback or see the impact that I'm having. And at that point, things open up and you create doors for yourself. You create, different directions rather than the one that you might be on, which, metaphorically, this ladder, right? Which, just burn that concept and really know that, you can create opportunities for yourself. And what's really important is, really building that sort of environment where people, relationship building and open up doors for you, not just you opening up doors for yourself, right?
Killy, while I got you here, when Killy and I were working together many years ago at one of his places of employment, it started off, his manager at the time is a brilliant, masterful, natural born leader. Calling him a ladderburner would be true, but he goes well beyond that. And he rounded up a group of people and said to me, I want you to work with these people. John, maybe you've had assignments like this. These are the next generation. These are the high flyers. These are not people in the penalty box. I want you to work with them and help them get ahead of the game. And it's like, oh, okay. By the way, I've never been successful with anybody in the penalty box. So if you know somebody that's not getting their job done and you send them to me, it's a kiss of death. It's like a dying plant. You put it in the bathroom and say, okay, here's your last chance. Well, that's about the level of success I had. But Killy was one of those people. And coming off a football career in college and I teased him and said, you're going to move in a position where you're not going to be a player anymore. You're going to be an offensive coordinator. Yeah. You're going to be a coach. But talk about not so much just our experience, but the one point I'm making in the book about what people need to focus on. And then I'd like to hear how people say, how do you actually do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it brings back a lot of memories of our conversations. But I was lucky, as many of the folks here on the panel, to have support and encouragement by mentors and managers and bosses. And Alan, you mentioned one, right? That really created an opportunity for me to start focusing on my own development and leveraging the environment I was in to create opportunities to learn. So I think we can all really resonate with, if you have a learning orientation, everything around you is an opportunity to learn, right? And learn to move forward in any direction, whether or not you're an engineer or operational individual like myself, or you're in a different industry. And so I was given basically a blank canvas to really explore different practices. As I was a senior engineer at the time, I was looking to move forward in my career as a manager and a people, just a leader and a people manager. I was able to really play with things and understand, what helps to influence an individual and a team member, and persuasion and all the things that we learn about in leadership development, right? And I just looked at my environment, my workplace, as a learning lab, right? So that's a concept, Alan, we've talked a lot about, right? Is creating these learning labs and these environments for you to learn and grow as an individual, right? And so that, to me, has been something that I've held on to for many years now. Is everything's an opportunity to learn and grow and develop. So,
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that story. And one of the insights that I'm taking from it is early in my career, I thought it was very important for me to manage people. And I quickly learned, 2 or 3 years into it, learned that I wasn't having fun, mainly because I seemed to be focused more on, people's performance than I was on their development. So I quickly moved into a role where I could become an individual contributor, and I could focus on people's learning and growth rather than managing, whether they met an objective on some performance appraisal system, which was a bunch of, rank and yank stuff anyway. So, and a lot of that carried over to my academic career where, students would complain about grades. And I said, why don't you just focus on what you're learning instead of the grade? We'll be a lot happier over this. But, so I think that's where, Alan, your earlier point about managers saying, well, I'm not responsible for my direct reports career. It's my boss. And actually, my daughter came home with just that exact story recently, where she's saying, well, how do I get to the people who actually have the responsibility? Because nobody is actually saying I have that responsibility as a manager or leader. They're way too myopically focused on performance as opposed to, who are these high potentials. And just one last story, one of my most rewarding gigs as a consultant was with NASA, where we had 28 high potential people moving through this year-long program. They were just a delight to work with. And they were asking very kind of straightforward questions like, so how do I have this kind of difficult conversation? How do I do that? And of course, my reaction was always, well, it's not rocket science. Oh, but wait, it is. But these were brilliant people who were working in stuff I can't even say, astrocryogenics or something. I mean, what is that? And then to watch them kind of struggle with what most of us, I think, would consider to be fairly straightforward interpersonal tasks was just, and watching them get better at it was just an amazing trip.
Yeah.
I love the idea of creating a work environment that is a learning lab, that you are encouraged to risk and fail and learn. That's optimal. I mean, that's when you're working for a leader and not a manager.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's just such a welcoming feeling when you're in that sort of environment, because then you can challenge yourself and John, I think you had just hit it right. I think, you start focusing on the things that you enjoy and naturally will excel at and be successful in it. And it's just it's a delight to work in those organizations. We all know that that's not always the case, and we all have stories of when it just isn't. But no, that learning lab is something hopefully that everyone can create in their own careers. But that is that helps to look at things a little bit differently.
Yeah, I'm thinking about early on when I came on staff at MMAC and started to work for Fuel. I started off in marketing, and there was my predecessor was the founding director of the organization. And I kept saying, are we going to do professional development? Because we were doing a lot of really interesting programs and events. And the piece that I thought was missing was like, well, this is a young professional group. Shouldn't we be doing some professional development? And I remember she said at the time, well, we're not doing it because the companies are doing it for them. And I said, I don't know if that's true. I'm not sure if that's true. And then so I kept going on, and I would ask the professionals, and would you come to professional development programming if we did it? And they all say yes. And I kept getting pushback. And finally, once I was in charge of the organization, I came up with this idea, this professional development boot camp, week-long boot camp where there were 15 sessions, 3 each day. They were just 1 hour, where folks would get sort of this action-packed professional development jolt from 15 different local speakers. And I got a little pushback. I don't know if it's going to work, and I was like, I have a feeling that this is going to work. And we just put it out there. First year, 1,000 registrations. And
1,000.
There was 1,000 registrations. And there was a lot of things about it that made it interesting. But what I remember about that first year is the number of people that pulled me to the side in tears saying, thank you for doing this. I just graduated from college. I feel like I'm, always scared in meetings, and I don't really know, how to speak up, and I'm always so intimidated. Well, this woman had just, sat in on a session about having a backbone at work, and it emboldened her. And, I believe that she went to work the next day feeling empowered and like she could do more than she had been given permission to do. So, I mean, we definitely opened that up for folks for Fuel. It's not just for Fuel members, but what I learned is that the opportunities that a lot of more seasoned professionals think younger professionals are getting, really probably professionals all through the life cycle of what a career is, the investment in development is not there in the way that a lot of people think is there. And a lot of folks, I think, are waiting for opportunities. Well, luckily for Fuel, we have boot camp, but that's just once a year. So I'm always encouraging people to, how many people bought the first book, Alan, when you spoke at Professional Development Book Camp? I'm like, look, if this is resonating with you, go to Amazon right now, buy the book. I mean, because it's on you. Ultimately, it would be nice to have a community of support, and I've benefited from that. But at the end of the day, you are your champion. You have to fight for yourself, and sometimes people don't realize that they can.
Yeah, you have to own it. You have to own that career and really drive it yourself.
Alan, you talk about a concept in the class that you teach for me, and I'm sure it's in your first book. I don't remember if it's in the second, and that's good work isn't enough.
Yeah, it doesn't speak for itself.
Yeah, that
doesn't speak for itself.
And that's such a shocker, especially if you've been a type A personality in school. You were the you were the grade go-getter. I won't use the term I usually do. And you get that first job, and you're like, wait, doing a good job isn't enough. I actually have to make connections and know people. And wow, how come that? What? That is such a shocker to so many people, and it keeps being a shocker throughout their career until they learn it. That's just, so that's why I think both books resonate throughout someone's career until they learn that hard lesson.
Yeah.
That yes, Corey, we keep using you, Corey Joe, as the example of I'm just going to go through the door if I want, but you also go through the door because you've made good connections with people who share your values, who and you're solid in who you are. But yeah, so what's the phrase again, Alan? A good work.
Good job. A good job should speak for itself.
Yeah. Sadly, it just doesn't.
It
You need to speak for yourself too.
I mean, think about how many times you've been at work. My first job, I was a writer at Manpower, and they were pretty good writers, but there were some people who weren't pretty good writers.
And they were doing better, weren't they?
Yeah, they had great personalities, and they always spoke up. I remember when I first started working at Manpower, I was in meetings and I would not ask the question because I would run the question that I was going to ask in my head over and over again for like stupid detector. Like, is this question stupid? Or should I say this question? This is like, I don't know if I should say it. And I would keep doing that and doing that and doing that until this more outgoing person would ask the exact same question or ask it in a way that wasn't as eloquent as how I was putting it together in my mind. And everybody in the room was like, wow, great question.
And you were thinking I asked that in my head 20 minutes ago. What the actual?
That was my great question. But just always this holding back and this, fear that it's not your thoughts and contributions somehow have to be vetted or proven, or that just how you naturally think and show up is not good enough. I suffered from that a lot.
Yeah, that to me is a huge point. I mean, I didn't invent this, but Columbo is definitely the model on this. And I've had someone say stupid is the new smart. First of all, to go into a meeting, to be in a meeting and not have a role or have something to say or add, I would say, why are you there? What's the purpose? And a lot of people are in meetings that really don't have to be there. I heard this as recently as one of you this morning or a couple of days ago. But the point is that you ask a question. If you think it's stupid, I bet half the other people in the group are feeling that they don't know what the hell somebody's talking about and want to ask that question. So why wouldn't you ask that? This is again part of, I know as Jenny and I have talked this through, is that this is what really what ladder burning looks like, and it's kind of it's concrete. It's like, ask the question. Just ask the question. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Somebody's going to say to you, and they're not, that's stupid. The only people that are going to say something like that are the ones that are really arrogant. And those are the people that we're talking about. Well, you don't want to work with them. You don't want to work for them. But basically, you're not going to hear that. And so that ability, it sounds so basic, but I think that's one of the fundamental tenets. I mean, this is just kind of peeling this back. I know, Charlene, when I was putting all this stuff together, thinking about, okay, would somebody want to read about this? Or is this just so basic? Because it's like, well, what do you need? Well, guess what? The communication part never goes away. The listening part never goes away. As a matter of fact, there's no guarantee because you're higher on the ladder, you have better listening skills, probably just the opposite. Mm-hmm. But it seems to me that people have to understand that asking those questions, it's as much for you as it is for anybody else, because most people do not have it figured out. They just don't have it figured out.
Asking the question. Comment.
That's
just to add to that, Alan. I'm sorry, I cut somebody off.
No, go ahead.
Alan, I think most of us realize that organizations are full of jargon and kind of goes by function. So, the finance people have a whole encyclopedia of acronyms, as does IT, as does HR. And a lot of times people use those acronyms as kind of an exclusionary device. It's like, I don't really know what I'm talking about, so I'll throw a few images in here, and people.
I hope you didn't try that at NASA, John.
Ask so that so I can smoke them, if you will. So I mean, I think a lot of people just need to give themselves permission to say, just help me with the acronym one more time.
Right.
I promise I'll get it right next time, but I still don't have it after 3 times. Yeah. And that's just organizational life. And, if you can be a little self-deprecating about it, or whatever your style is around, posing that question, you gotta ask it, because if you go away without a complete understanding, or questioning your own understanding,
Right.
that's a terrible place to be, as opposed to, really kind of having all of the data for yourself.
Mhm.
While it can be called empowerment, and it looks like empowerment, and I'm saying, burning the ladder, that the act of destruction is to have a new start. It's like, who do you need approval from? Over time, that approval really comes from you, or you doing something. It helps to have it from other people. And that's one point I want to make before as we start to draw to a close here, unfortunately. I have said, I think the defining difference is that rather than look for purpose and meaning through the work, look for purpose and meaning through the people that you can surround yourself with. And John, what's the name of your colleague that you have met with for 30 years?
Oh, Charlie Clayman.
Charlie, I met Charlie or heard of him through you.
Did.
It's a Charlie Clayman's of the world. They're there. Those people are there. These are the people. I mean, I know, Charlene, you and I we communicate a lot and have around the book, but it's like, I've got a question, you've got an answer, or you'll find an answer. It's like, you find people that are committed, you find people that are interesting, you find people that are interested. I really, really believe that these are the people that help you discover what's really, truly important to you, which is some of the career. I'm not really a career counselor, although I think Jenny has quoted me as being something like that. I mean, the way I see it is, when you think about, if you help other people be successful, and this sounds very altruistic, and it is, but it's all, there's a bit of it being self-serving, and the self-serving is what is really critical and important to me. So if I believe that I'm in a position where I have a comfort level, to the old army, be all that you can be. If you're motivated intrinsically, which is where all of what I've talked about, I realize headed, you start to talk, and I know Corey Joe well enough over the last 2 weeks to hear people talk about impact and meaning. They don't talk about influencing people or good communication. They're at a whole different level. I had a client one time that said that worked at a very prominent organization. They had a very senior position, and I said, "Oh my God, you must be in meetings all day." And this person's response, and you must hate it, this person's response is, "I'm in meetings all day, but that's where I get business done." And it's like, okay, who thinks like that? And that's clearly someone that understands, and it does feel, and it is more political, but let's just leave it. If I can get the buzz around this to be, this is all about the nature of the relationships that you build, consciously build. Some of them, it's not, I don't think it's simply a matter of luck. I mean, people want to say, oh, if I hadn't met somebody at photography class, I never would have found Business Expert Press. If I hadn't found business, and it's like, that's like, well, really, it's not. It's just, that's the way the world works, or can work. Kelly, you had something you wanted to weigh in on?
I think those people, as you engage people out there in the workforce, and certainly through your careers, and you build those relationships, it becomes a two-way street and doors open. But more than anything, I think they come into your sphere and your careers, right? And it is the relationship building that really creates opportunity. And so,
other thoughts along this line? Charlene, Kim, John, Kelly, Corey, Joe. Charlene?
I love the concept of ladder burning. Is just, I know there's a movement here, and we've talked about the ladder, but I think you can actually, we've talked around it too. I mean, it's there's a lot of things that you can burn, that preconceived notion that, entering a career or a particular role, don't rely on that. Go out there and seek out the information, build the relationships, understand how everything works and the people involved, and just really focus on that, because that's the job, right? That's probably more the job. It's not the job.
Right. That's the job. And that's the path. That's what I'm saying. Beyond a certain point, when you get to the bridge, you have the chance now for transformation. If we want to use jargon, okay, that's where you are. Those relationships, and they never stop getting built, but you realize you're making that investment. That's where the magic happens. That's where the transformation happens. And that's where people, I hope and pray, say, now I need to understand and use and have greater impact, and as a part of that, have greater meaning. And related to this, part of this is not just what we do. There is so much work that needs to be done, important work, that I want people to feel they can do just whatever little dent. I mean, I say, grab it, doesn't matter, grab a shovel, find a place, dig in, grab a shovel, and just go like hell. Because there's so much. There is just so much. And when you read these god-awful statistics that come out of engagement surveys, what Gallup says, 35% of the people in the workforce are fully engaged or engaged. That's 65% of engagement on the table. There it is. What's stopping that? And it's because people there are a whole lot of reasons, whether people get stuck or they don't feel fulfilled, or they think it's somebody else's responsibility. And I'm saying it isn't. You don't like it, you can do plenty about it. I don't mean you have to jump, although some people do and end up being just fine, start their own jobs or start their own careers. Start their own businesses. But I think the key is just take it. Find people. To Kelly, to your point, let's get this group on a Rolodex. And what I want, what I hope, and is part of this meeting even today, and I have to look at Corey Joe. I was part of a panel that she had yesterday and done some phenomenal work. She's called Structured Conversations Monthly, called Race Bridge, and yesterday was talking about what does it mean to be Jewish in America? It's been, what does it mean to be Asian American in America? What does it mean to be Black in America, and so forth? It's like yesterday it blew me away, and I've never had conversations quite like that.
So awesome. I was so glad you could join us. And again, I think ladder burning starts with this fire inside, right? It's something that just happens, and you see it and you can't stop thinking about it, or you're thinking about it in the shower or when you sleep. And a lot of people ignore that. You can't ignore that. No. That's what Race Bridge was. That could have not happened if I had ignored the idea. It was just a thought. It was a passing thought. Oh, we should have webinars about, race and racism. That sounds fun. But at the time, it was like, okay, this is the time for us to do something like this if we're going to do it. So I'm like, it's a webinar, it's free, it's not going to cost me anything. If it don't work, it don't work. If it does, great. And then I put it out there and 500 people showed up. And it's like, whoa, this is crazy. So I've learned that because I've had the opportunity to do it. And part of my job is to come up with something new. But all of us have that. All of us get really mad about something, or really want to see something change, or really want to create something. And that's the flame that starts the ladder burner, whether it's in your organization or outside. Maybe it's volunteering, or maybe you start your own, group, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful, and I want to encourage people. And I haven't. This hasn't been formalized. We're just it's somewhat ironic that it's International Ladderburners Day. I don't know how that happened, that it ended up being the same day that the book is released. Charlene, I don't know if Scott did. Yes, exactly. If that was you or Scott, or how that happened, or maybe we just, I don't know, happened upon it. But this is to say, to think about where do we go from here. I know. You're gonna get interviewed. You're gonna be on a podcast, so you better save some of your best stuff, Charlene. I want to make sure. I want to be like Corey Joe around this. I want a place where people can come talk about their careers and ask questions, and just, I mean, I don't think it's and age and experience is no issue. I want somebody. I've done the question about how do you measure success with a group of young professionals, and 80% of the answers that I got there on the spot were to meet my objectives. And then you think, okay, well, that's who they are and where they are, and at what point do you see beyond that? Although I suspect that you sitting here, even at an early point in your career, probably looked at your job like, I don't want vanilla. I want some. I mean, John, I remember, because when you and I first met, you had just left. Well, you had left Denison, I think, a while ago, but you were really kind of looking into advanced degree and teaching and consulting and all that kind of fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Ms. Kim, you have a
yeah,
question?
I think part of that discussion, if we continue this, is also how do you recover from cataclysmic failure, and what does that teach you? Because I think that's part of why people stay on the ladder.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid I'm going to fall. I'm afraid this, and so, I mean, I've been fired from jobs. You know what? The world went on. I actually got severance. It was a great vacation. It timed out well. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? But if people don't tell you that the world goes on when that stuff happens, you don't take the risk. That's part of, a learning lab also allows you to fail. But if you're in an environment where it's not a learning lab,
right.
I think hearing from professionals that you look up to, that you admire, and to hear that they weren't always the raving success that you know them to be now, and that they've had some hiccups, might be encouraging as well. And I use this as an example. Alan, I think I've talked to you about my mentor that I worked for at Mount Mary, who was a 6-foot-tall card-carrying member of the NRA, former professional bowler, none. Who she was amazing. She was the best. But she asked us all. This was the group of. It was at Mount Mary, Corey Joe. I know. She asked us all what our GPA was when we were undergraduates. And I happened to be sitting next to Sister Jane Forney. That was her name. That is her name. And she wrote down what her GPA was as an undergrad. And I saw it. It was a 2.72. This is the vice president of the college.
Yeah. There you go. How did that happen?
Well, that was certainly, so I was a grade monger as a undergrad. I was a very good, that's not what I wrote down,
Right.
Give me that paper, sister. Write down my, summa, whatever. But to realize this woman becomes this amazing scholar and leader and whatnot. And she had a 2.72 as an undergrad.
Yeah. Well, and then you realize what's a 2.72 in the scheme of
a party life, evidently, knowing Sister Jane, but
it's the same GPA a lot of our presidents have had. So
no comment.
It's a measure at the time, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's, I think hearing that people have ups and downs, and it isn't a straight line to success.
Right.
So if you're on the ladder and the ladder doesn't feel right, jump off and find a new ladder or a bridge or whatever you need to do. But the risk, if you're afraid of failure, Bjorn Borg. If you're afraid to, just saw a quote from him. If you're afraid to fail, then you probably shouldn't win either.
Yeah. Good point.
Yes.
Well, listen, we unfortunately we're almost drawing to a close. And I know, Jenny, we wanted to do a couple of giveaways. I will reserve just a little bit of time at the end for final comments, but I don't want people to leave until we talk. This is kind of funny. We have some things we want to give, some swag we want to give away, some Ladderburner stuff, signed books. Got a journal that came out with that we created that also has the Ladderburner manifesto on the front. You're going to see pictures of Killy and Charlene, Jenny have signed. Kim, yeah, there you go, signed the pledge, and we're going to get more of those that are available. I know, Charlene, that's hey, way to go. So Jenny,
I'm already writing in it too.
Yeah, look at you. Unbelievable. Jenny, what we got?
All right. Well, we'll throw some of the other giveaways, the autograph book, another journal. We have some coffee mugs, and we're going to do some other Ladderburner swag as far as, building off the manifesto, which you'll find on the website. And you can, if you don't have a journal, you can go to the website, print this off, make it your wallpaper, put your name in there, and share it out. Tell the world that you are standing up for what you believe in, that you're taking charge of your career. But we're going to create some swag around that too. And there's going to be a surprise giveaway in that regard. But for the sake of today, we wanted to do 2 drawings. That's going to be a Ladderburner starter kit. And the first person that we drew for that, I'm pulling from comments, from likes, from shares, is Nick Pretaski.
You're kidding. Nick won a starter kit?
Yes, Nick gets a starter kit. And then here, let's see, we've got a little bit of, I've got a wheel here.
Listen to this.
If you can hear it. It's taking its time. Judy Frank will also get a.
Yay, Judy.
Yay, Judy.
All right. So
thanks.
That's the fun I have for you here today, but I've loved your conversation. This is a fantastic group of Ladderburners. So I look forward to more conversations, bringing more people together in the group and joining you in future.
Yeah, we need a group. It's a movement. We've convinced this is one-on-one. We're not going for the masses. We're not going to appeal to everybody. There's a bit of snark, and there's a bit of social justice, and there's a bit of why aren't you everything you can be that's built into this. And there are a lot of people out there that believe this. So let's see if we can get them joined in. Thank you all so much. Any final ideas or comments you'd like to add from any of you would be fine. Charlene and John and Killy.
Get a copy of the book. I mean, I have several different copies. A few because I'm privileged to, because I have the actual files. But I ordered myself a print book because it's I love books anyway. But the graphics, the way that it's laid out, just the entire book. It brings everything together, and I just think reading it on a screen is great. And it's especially Kindle right now is really discounted. And I did buy the Kindle version so I could get going on some reading. But yeah, I'm really proud of what the book looks like on the interior, and I can't wait to hold it in my hands and see everything that we've worked so hard on for so long.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Charlene. And yeah, you pre-order it, you get 20% off. We're talking about how do you create, we'll get, John and I talked about this a little bit, a discussion guide, what that might, I think we talked about this, John, maybe I'm putting you on the spot, what this could look like if this were used on, I know, Charlene, you have a large contingent of people that are university professors. But we've got to talk about this. I realize it's important and to the other kinds of discussions that we need to have. So thank you all, and let's just stay in touch with us. If you're not on a mailing list, get on it. And because I want to be able to, I don't want to do, Kelly, you and I have talked about this, it's like, I want you to write a blog. I want you to write something that people can see, that where we can share ideas. And I would say that for all of you, that we could do that. And this would be a place to do it. So stay tuned. Thank you all. You mean a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Congratulations on the book, Alan.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye, all.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye, kids.
Burn some ladders.
Burn some ladders.
Burn some ladders.
Let me know when you get home. Okay.
All right.
Ciao.
Ciao.